Right now at 6, a former pilot who tried to shut down a plane's engines mid-flight pleads guilty.
I regret the harm I caused to every single person on board that airplane.
How much time Joseph Emerson could now spend in prison.
Then how President Trump just singled out the Rose City.
What they've done to that place is it's like living in hell.
I'm Jay Coulter here in Happy Valley, where police discovered a man living in the crawl space of one of these condos. We have reaction from neighbors coming up.
And later, inspiring women share honest truths and the power of purpose.
We all have a greatness in us, and we all are meant to do something uniquely special in this world.
Good evening, everyone. We begin at 6 with President Trump zeroing in on Portland and now considering sending National Guard troops to the Rose City. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Christine Pedowanich. In a news conference this afternoon, the president talked about news reports of what he says are radical left groups throwing smoke bombs. That's likely a reference to ongoing protests in front of Portland's ICE facility. Here's some of what he said.
These are paid agitators, and they're very dangerous for our country. And when we go there, if we go to Portland, we're going to wipe them out. They're going to be gone, and they're going to be gone fast. They won't even stand the fight. What they've done to that place is it's like living in hell.
Okay, Mayor Keith Wilson already pushing back, saying the city does not need federal intervention and praising police for both protecting free speech and handling any unrest.
And the Oregon Attorney General's office firing back with this, quote, "The president may have a lot of power, but he has to stay in his lane." Much more coming up tonight at 6:30 on The Story.
I regret the harm that I caused. I regret the harm I caused to every single person on board that airplane.
Well, that is the former Alaska Airlines pilot who tried to shut down a plane's engines mid-flight, forcing an emergency landing at PDX.
And today, Joseph Emerson took responsibility for his actions when it came to state and federal charges. Devin Haskins is live at the Multnomah County Courthouse to break it all down for us. Devin.
Yeah, David and Christine, Joseph Emerson pleading guilty in federal court today. And while he still needs to be sentenced in that case, he wrapped up his state case here at Multnomah County Court earlier this afternoon, taking responsibility for endangering the lives of dozens of passengers.
How do you plead to counts 2 through 84?
No contest.
Okay.
A change in plea for ex-pilot Joseph Emerson. No contest is not a guilty plea, but by doing so, he accepted responsibility and sentencing as if he had.
I plead no contest because even though I had no intention of harming anybody.
This case dates back to October of 2023. Emerson, who was an off-duty pilot at the time, was seated in the jump seat in the cockpit and tried to pull levers that would have stopped the plane's engines mid-air. In an interview with police, Emerson said he hadn't slept in over 40 hours, had taken psychedelic mushrooms, and was not okay, and said he had pulled the handles to wake himself up from what he thought was a bad dream.
I still made the decision to take psilocybin, and that led to my inability to determine that I was operating in reality for an extended period of time. That doesn't make this right. What happened was wrong and should not have happened, and I bear the responsibility for that.
State prosecutors charged Emerson with 83 counts of endangering the lives of a person and a single count of endangering an aircraft.
What Joseph Emerson did was reckless, selfish, and criminal.
One of the passengers on board that day spoke about the impact it's had on her.
I have flown with more anxiety since that day, and I will continue to fly because I must, but I will never, ever feel less safe stepping onto an airplane. And no one should have to feel this way.
Emerson won't spend any more time in jail for the state charges. The judge sentenced him to 50 days in jail with credit for time served. Now, again, he still has to be sentenced for that federal case, but he did plead guilty to a single count of interfering with a flight crew and attendants. In that case, he could face up to 20 years in prison, but the government recommended to the judge a year in prison. That sentencing, November 17th at 10 a.m. Back to you.
Devin Haskins, downtown. Devin, appreciate your reporting.
In an update this evening, the Evergreen School Board of Directors passed a resolution declaring the ongoing classified staff strike unlawful. Board members say every day of missed class is hurting families, and they're authorizing legal action, including possible lawsuits, to force employees back to work. Classified staff members have been on strike now for 2 weeks, which is how long the start of school has been delayed. Striking staff are demanding better pay, staff stability, and student safety. Evergreen has not yet canceled school for Monday and says it will let parents know by 4 o'clock Sunday evening. In a response to the board's resolution today, the union says it doesn't change anything and, quote, "We urge the district to stop wasting time on threats and start addressing the core issues that keep Evergreen students from having the stable, supportive schools they deserve." Mediation is expected to continue tomorrow.
Developing in Clackamas County, a man is facing charges after he allegedly turned a condo crawl space into a makeshift apartment complete with a bed, lights, and electronics.
Jay Coulter spoke with neighbors and shows us in depth what that makeshift apartment looked like.
We spoke to a couple neighbors who say this is the kind of thing that happens in movies, including the next door neighbor whose husband was the one who called the police.
I'm like, wow, you really have lamp, bed, couch, and everything.
Neighbors in Happy Valley are stunned after it was discovered a random man broke into a condo crawl space and set up a secret living space inside. These photos posted to the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office Facebook page.
It's like it's something you see in horror movies. Like it's crazy.
I cannot believe it. That really weird. I feel like I only see those in movies.
Ketzy Ludwig lives right next door to the condo that was broken into. In fact, it was her husband that noticed the man parking his car and walking towards the back of the building. He told us off camera that he noticed the door to the crawl space open with light coming from inside. They later discovered the man who broke into the neighbor's crawl space may have tried theirs first.
Did he show you guys the picture of our door that he was trying to like work it easy, you know? But I guess he chose the next door.
Deputies discovered 40-year-old Benjamin Bakor living in the crawl space with a bed, lights, chargers, TVs, and electronics plugged into the house's power. Police say he's been living there for, quote, an extended period of time.
I was kind of laughed when they said he got a PS5. I'm like, wow, he's really living a good down there.
Police say a meth pipe was also found in the crawl space.
It's a good thing that they were just being selfish and abusing substances down there rather than like trying to kill them or like do something like that. It really just seems like they had a troubling time. They needed somewhere to stay, and that's where they were. Whether that be okay, maybe not.
Bakor was charged with first-degree burglary and unlawful possession of methamphetamine. His bail was set at $75,000. In Happy Valley, Jay Coulter, KGW News.
In your headlines this evening, the FBI is looking for a fugitive from Georgia who may be in the Portland area. Ronald Watson, who is also known by several aliases, is also wanted for arson and destroying government property during a 2020 protest at the Atlanta ICE building, one that caused nearly $80,000 in damages. Watson was also convicted in 2023 for assaulting a public safety officer in Oregon. The FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest.
A judge sentenced a man today to 55 months in prison for stealing an excavator and using it to break into an ATM, making off with nearly $60,000. The theft happened back in June at a U.S. bank on Sunnyside Road in Clackamas County. Investigators say 33-year-old Matthew Armour and 51-year-old Kevin Miller stole the excavator from a job site, drove it to the bank, and broke into the ATM before taking off. Miller remains in jail and faces trial in October.
And what started as one of the largest heroin busts ever reported in Oregon has now taken a bit of a bizarre twist. That's because a new test showed the barrels seized by federal agents last year were not full of drugs, but nearly all water. John Adams has the story.
In January 2024, 4 men were arrested at a Motel 6 in Tigard. Federal officials received a tip from an undisclosed source that these men were moving a massive shipment of liquid heroin from Yakima, Washington to the Portland area. The men were driving a rented U-Haul truck with 8 55-gallon barrels inside and another car following behind. Officials began following the U-Haul on I-84 near Bonneville to the motel in Tigard, where the men stopped for the night. After the arrests, officials said 7 of the 8 barrels tested positive for heroin, and charged 6 men in connection to the case. But according to court documents, the attorney representing one of the men hired a forensic chemist to do a thorough test of the barrels, revealing they actually contained 99.999% water and 0.001% heroin, a far cry from the 50 million lethal doses federal officials had stated. In fact, the chemist concluded the small amount of heroin combined with the large amount of water made the heroin unusable. The attorney who had the barrels tested is representing 28-year-old Luis Woodward. Woodward had been in custody since January 2024. After this evidence was presented, a judge sentenced Woodward for the time he already served, along with 3 years of supervised release, far less than the sentence Woodward could have been facing if he was found guilty on the original charges. According to court documents, Woodward is facing deportation to Mexico. Another defendant in this case, Marco Magalon, is scheduled to be sentenced on Tuesday. John Adams, KGW News.
Okay, let's get to a little weather because the showers have moved out at this point. Looking nice out there from our Wells Fargo Skycam. Also have moved out those 80-degree temperatures.
A lot of folks will be fans of that. Chief Meteorologist Matt Sfado is up on the KGW weather deck. Matt, happy Friday. How's it looking up there?
It's looking good. I mean, we got a little breeze out of the north, some clouds over to the west, which are helping to block the sun, so I didn't have to wear my sunglasses up here on the Rick's Custom Fencing weather deck. So, yeah, it's nice because the cloud cover we had this morning along with the rain helped to really put a lid on our temperatures and keep things down. There are more showers and thunderstorms now drifting to the west of the crest of the Cascades. Let's check out Doppler radar and you'll be able to see that. Pretty big swarm throughout most of central and eastern Oregon, but when we zoom in on this, you'll see that they have come to the west side. We'll zoom in even more. And up around Detroit, Detroit Lake, Lions, Gates, and even eventually towards Mill City, we have a really strong storm right there. You can see the clouds blowing off the tops of those storms from our Skycam up at Timberline Lodge. But there's a special weather statement out for those storms for the potential for half-inch hail and wind gusts of 40 miles an hour. So we'll keep close tabs on radar as we go through the evening hours. Fire weather warning continues till 11 o'clock tonight for a good chunk of central, southern, and eastern Oregon as well. All right, then, for us, and then in Washington, still really bad air quality in eastern Washington with all the fires burning up that way. Portland right now, though, a pleasant 76 degrees. That's below average, and our high temperatures will be below average in the next several days. Look, we're running 11 degrees cooler than the same time yesterday because we had the cloud cover for the better part of the morning and the rain showers as well. So what we're looking at, showers are possible again in the valleys tonight, but they'd be scattered if we get any, like I showed you that cell up by Detroit. PM showers again on Saturday evening, and then a better chance for a good soaking rain on Monday. More on all this, guys, in a bit. Back to you.
Yeah, you described it as pleasant. I'd have to agree. I stepped outside out there for a second. Thank you, Matt.
You bet.